Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal-crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar, and I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by our free community, the Circle of Resilient and Thriving Pet Professionals. If you like the ideas shared here, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the community. You can find out more at colleenpilar.com. It's the perfect place for you to learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Elysia Ostrander with Positive Families Dog Training in Canada. Welcome, Elysia. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
We have a mostly American audience, but we have listeners in some very surprising places. A fair number in Canada, a decent number in Australia, and then random ones around the globe. So I feel very international talking to you in Canada today. So I'm curious if you could tell us just a little bit about your work and your area of focus.
Yeah. So I work mostly with families, specifically with families that are expecting a new baby or have a baby or toddler in their home. I'm very heavily oriented into like family pause work. So I work closely with Jen Shyrock, and that's really the niche that I love and care about, and working with new moms and expecting moms and dads, of course, but just supporting them through that big transition. I also have a special interest in aggression, so I take on a lot of pro bono cases with aggression, just as I'm like learning the ropes with it, and just trying to support as many people as I possibly can.
Which is awesome. What do you think sparked the particular interest in supporting families with young kids? Because that's a challenging field.
It was honestly becoming a mom myself was really what spurred me into that realm. When I was pregnant with my son Peyton, I very much was looking for information on how to make that transition as successful as I possibly could for my two dogs that I had at the time. And I found that the information that I was getting was coming from places that didn't fully understand the realm of how big of an event bringing home baby is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no shade on anyone else. It's one of those experiences that I feel like you don't really know until you've gone through it. And so when my dogs were struggling with that transition, I looked into more information, and one of my mentors here in Calgary put me onto the path of seeing through family pause. So I took their educator course, and then the rest is kind of history. It spurred everything in me to just want to make moms and dads not feel abandoned in that, and to feel supported with their dogs, because lots of people just say, like they'll be fine. They'll know baby right away. They'll just know that it's part of their family. And I did not have that experience, and I felt very alone and isolated in my concern with my dog and my baby. So ever since then, I'm just like, no, I need to help other families not have this lingering fear and anxiety around their dogs and their babies, and make them feel that it's okay to have that.
Yeah. When I had my kids, the timing was the same as when I started dog training, like literal overlap. I was pregnant teaching my first dog class, and the parenting books either didn't mention dogs at all, which was the most common, no mention at all.
Yep.
Which is interesting, since the statistics show that in the United States, a child is more likely to live in a home with a dog than with their father.
Wow.
That's a pretty shocking statistic. I learned that at a conference a couple weeks ago. But so the parenting books didn't mention dogs at all, unless they mentioned them as like sort of scary creatures, like how to treat a dog bite, what to do, all of that. And the dog books also treated children as scary creatures. and and both books seem to assume that the parent had a lot more control of each of these individual alive beings than a human actually has, and didn't take into account additional numbers as well. So you had two dogs and a child. So there's three variables, and every time we add a variable, it changes in complexity. So I think it's a really important niche, but I think it's also one that's scary because it's so complex and the answers can't apply from household to household because the individuals are different, the dogs are different, the babies are different, the layout is different, the parent is different, all of it.
Yeah, it's
a whole different thing. So I totally understand why many dog trainers are delighted to refer those cases to the dog trainers who love them, which is a win-win. Yeah. It's a win-win. I personally always referred separation anxiety because that was not my sweet spot. Like, give me aggression any day of the week over separation anxiety. Happy to refer to the trainers who loved it. So similarly, I'm sure there are people in your area who are happy to refer to you. So obviously, if there was a link of that, when you had kids, this became your specialty. I'm curious to know, as a younger person, a little kid, like not little, but like 10-ish tends to be where I ask, what did you think you were going to do with your life as an adult?
I thought I'd be veterinarian.
Okay.
I've always had a passion for animals, and I thought I would be a veterinarian and I would help dogs in the medical field. I didn't know that like dog training was was an option for me at that time. It was just like, you were going to be a doctor, you were going to be a veterinarian, you were going to be all these these things that take lots of schooling. And then as I grew up, as I got into my teenage years, I became really interested in working with children. And so as I grew, I kind of veered more towards education and becoming a teacher. So, which I find is really interesting to where I am now, because now I feel like I get a little bit of both.
Yeah.
In my career. So, but yeah, I've always had a very deep passion for animals in specific, and then also a very deep interest in children and working with children.
And did you go all the way through to actually become a teacher before you were a dog trainer, or did the dog training catch you early enough that you didn't have a previous career?
No, so I went to university for education. And about halfway through my program, I just became very overwhelmed with the different aspects of teaching and being in a classroom full of like a whole bunch of kids. And I learned fairly quickly that maybe teaching was not in my expertise and wasn't something that I was necessarily made for. And so then I explored things like counseling, psychology, social work throughout my university career. And I ended up graduating with a general degree just because I couldn't make up my mind as to what I wanted to do. So yeah, that's kind of like my education. And then after university, I followed my husband up to Calgary, and then I got a job at the Cochrane Humane Society, not too far from Calgary, and worked there for quite a few years. Took a hiatus and then went back and became a dog trainer through the Cochrane Humane Society.
That's so cool. I also have a general degree from a university. I met my husband at the very end of my sophomore year, and he asked the question that everybody asks in college. So, what's your major? And I said, I don't know yet. And he was like, how can you not know? And I'm like, I like everything. I like everything. Which is kind of cool. And it hasn't hurt me. I turned out okay. No. And looks like you've turned out okay. So for all those people being alarmed by the people who are interested in a little of everything, it's okay. So when you worked at the Humane Society before you were a trainer, what was your role there?
I started in adoptions. So I worked in adoptions and intakes. So all the animals coming in and the kind of first contact on the way in and last contact on the way out. I did animal care. I did reception. I kind of did a little bit of everything. I worked within their education department, so I did school visits and like summer camps and that kind of stuff. So I got to work with kids there. It was really a wonderful, wonderful job. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it sounds like it really used your skills of being interested in kids and education and animals. And yeah, it was a really nice mix. So what do you find most reinforcing about your work these days? What does it give you?
It fills my cup even as a mom. It like I have learned very quickly that I need to do this work so that I can feel a little bit like my old self as like while I'm trying to navigate motherhood. I have very young children, so I have a 3 and a 5-year-old myself. So feeling like I am contributing to my community has been a really, really huge impact on myself and making people not feel alone. And even in the toughest cases, like I always feel better at the end of it, even if it doesn't turn out well, that at least they didn't have to go through it by themselves. And so that's been like my mantra through all of this work. It's just been very much, if I can help people, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting word choice right there. If I can help people, then I'm doing my job. How do you define help? I had an episode with Christopher Puckle years ago, who told me that he had like success definitions for all sorts of things, including like what is a successful, visit for a dog at a consultation. And of course, that metric is always personal. It can't be like what happens on the other side, for the dog or for the human. So when you're saying help people, how do you internally measure? I did it. I did what I set out to do.
It always, I mean, I take it case by case, but I think the biggest thing for me is that when you see someone have that like sigh of relief that that they are okay where they are, or that I'm struggling for the right words for it. It's that sense of that they understand that, one, they're not alone in it, and two, that they can make the right choices for their families. So I always, in any case that I'm working with, I know that my job and my specialty and my expertise is, here are your options. These are the things that we can do. Here are the different tools or tactics or whatever you have. What do you feel like you're capable of? What is your capacity?
Mm-hmm.
And then as long as I can fit whatever it is that our goals are within their capacity, that's when I'm like, okay, this was successful.
Yeah. What is your capacity? Such a great frame to use, because it's easy for us to assume someone else has the ability to do something because we can do it. But on any given day, there are things I can do and things I cannot do based on my capacity. And there are some baseline things that stay pretty steady and some things that go wildly off task with capacity. And of course, living in a household with kids, there's a lot of flux in what's happening, and what will be happening in 4 months is very different than what's happening now, because things are changing all the time. All the time. I watch my granddaughter twice a week, and it's just fascinating to see like the leaps in language. She's not quite 3. She'll be 3 in the winter. And just from week to week, I'm like, wow, you couldn't say that before. You didn't know that before. You didn't understand that before. And I've already been through this game with my own kids. Like, it shouldn't be so mind blowing to me, but it really is. And to me, there's the gift of having the time away from her, but that our time together is frequent enough that I can see, like, you couldn't do that last week. This is new. And as a parent, I didn't always see it because it was the tiny little increments and it was just evolving. But as a grandparent, I'm so aware that the kid who arrives and that my dog and cat are meeting from week to week is not necessarily the same kid they met last week, because she's different.
Yep.
So what is your capacity is a great frame to hold when working with any of our clients in any case, because they are the experts on them. They know what they can do, and you are the one who has the ideas and the options, which is helpful to see that there are more options in many cases than they knew of beforehand.
Exactly.
And there's something empowering about that. So I like to ask my guests for some words that have meaning to them. And one, you shared a quote, and I'm going to talk about your quote in a minute. But one thing that I'm so excited about this quote is that this quote is by someone who I've interviewed on the podcast before and who I know personally. That has not happened before. So you shared words from Jennifer Shryock, who is the founder of Family Pause. And the words were, you know what you know until you grow. So tell me a little bit about what that means to you.
So those words hit me really hard while I was mentoring under Jen, because I had shared a video of my son and my dog, and my dog was showing all kinds of appeasement behavior, calming signals, warning signals, and what I asked was, what I don't understand is she put herself in the situation. And so it was this like this moment of like light bulb for me. And then she had said, she's like, well, you know what you know until you grow. Like, I didn't know that my dog would put herself in a situation that she was uncomfortable with and stay there, because she just wanted to be near me, even if there was something there that was uncomfortable for her. And that's been a really big mantra for me. And I say it to my clients, like almost every single client, when they have those little light bulb moments. It's like, oh, I didn't know what that meant. And so I say it like almost on a daily basis. It's like, you know what you know until you grow. Like Jennifer Shryock said it best. That's exactly it. And I actually have a cup that she sent me with that quote on it. Which is like my favorite cup, and I like leave it on my desk. I don't have it right now because I'm washing it. But it's just, yeah, it was one of those phrases that like ever since she said it to me, and I had that light bulb moment in my own like experience with my dog and my baby. It's everything. It's just like it makes so much sense. People do as good as they know in the moments that they are in, and they can't do better unless they know better.
Yeah.
And so you can't grow until you have the knowledge to support that growth. And so it's just, yeah, it's been a huge mantra for my own life as well as like all of my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I love about light bulb moments and really powerful things is that they often are one-sided. So that was Jen just being Jen, saying what she thought or believed, but she wasn't trying to deliver to you words that would have meaning and would come out for you over and over and over again. And I think that's like part of the magic of helping people really become themselves and feel good in the work they do and the meaning they make, because we don't know what our ripple effects will be. It's impossible to know what our ripple effects will be. And in this case, Jen knows because you continue to work with her, and now she's on a podcast and presumably she'll hear it. But um but that's just one ripple from her life. And similarly, you're having ripples in people's lives. And maybe the ripple will be that you share those words with them. But maybe it's going to be some other way that you help them feel supported and understood and not judged for the situation that they were in, that they didn't know. But they knew what they knew until they grew. And you know what you know until you grow. That's how it is, you know? So I think it's really fascinating because it happens all the time. Like when I ask people, like, tell me about somebody who was meaningful in your life or a moment of impact. And then when I say, well, do you think that person knew in that moment that this was a big moment? And it's almost always no, they didn't know because they weren't doing anything profound from their perspective. They were just being with someone honestly and sincerely and in connection. So I just feel like I pulled out a little soapbox, but I think that's so true of how it's a tiny thing and it's a huge thing all at the same time. So how does that show up with you as a parent, with your kids?
So one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life has become a mom, as being a mom. And I struggle with it on a daily basis. And it's again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I am doing the best that I have with the tools that I have. And I have to continuously remind myself of that, as well as the people that are around me. Is that we can only do the best we can in the positions that we are in. And sometimes maybe that's not good enough for someone else, but for me, it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And until I can grow and I can learn and I can be the best version of myself for them, um, I am being the best mom I can in those moments. So yeah, my motherhood is probably the hardest part of my day.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but it's also and it's always, I'm always learning new things, and I'm constantly like, they're evolving and I have to evolve with them. And it's exhausting, but rewarding and beautiful all at the same time. So it's one of those, like, I have learned very much, like, I am growing every single day as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can do is try to know as much as I can, to grow as much as I can, to be there for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a,
As well as support my own.
yeah, it's a very, very hard job. It's a very hard
Yes.
job. Yeah. Somebody shared with me once that I think it was her grandmother, secondhand thing, um, had said, if I had known how hard the hard parts of parenting would be, I would never have had kids. And if I had known how amazing and beautiful the good parts would be, I would have started younger and had so many more, and both are true. like,
Yeah.
like if someone could have told you in advance, like, here's the heartbreak that's headed your way,
Yeah.
you're like, nope, not signing up for that. And then
Yeah.
here's the beauty. It's just impossible to communicate it, because it's personal and unique to each of us. Like, so like, oh yeah, it'll be amazing. Yes, it will. And it will also be horrible and grueling and hard. And both are true. And hopefully most parents come out on the side that it's totally worth it and the best thing that they could ever do. And also the hardest thing that they can do. So, so from the perspective of being a parent of young kids and a professional dog trainer, you had said that there's something really great to you about having this job, like that there's a value in that it fills your cup. Talk a little bit more about that, about how being a dog trainer helps you be a good mom, being a mom helps you be a good dog trainer.
Yeah. So I think being a mom and in the line of work that I do with not just like parents, but also with people who are parenting their dogs or have like a lot going on and have that busyness in their life, it helps it helps me relate to people really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say, oh yeah, I totally understand that phase that you're going through, and like I can empathize with you. And so I think it helps me connect with people on the dog trainer side of things. And that connection is what fills my cup. Even if it's like I said, even if it's a hard case and it's really like, it's really difficult and there's like, it turns out terribly, or not terribly. I think that's the incorrect word, but it turns out the way that they didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
It still helps fill my cup because I know, like I said, I know that I've supported them and I still have that connection with them. And I think connecting with people is the biggest part of my job and of what I'm so passionate about. Like, I love dogs, but it's really the people that drive me forward and make me want to help more. And then the dog training helps me be a better mom because being a mom, especially like I stay at home with my kids and then I do dog training in the evenings and weekends when my husband is home. But being a mom at home can be very isolating. And I love my babies. I love my kids so much. But they don't always, they can be draining. Right. So when I get to go out and connect with people and enjoy that, I can come home with that full cup. to be able to provide them with the things that they need. And when I don't get to go dog train, I feel myself draining faster. And it's not that, like I said, it's not that I don't love them. It's not that I don't find the beauty and all of the things that I'm doing with my kids. But I can come home and I feel so much better that it's easier for me to sit down with them and want to teach them the things and be present, because it's not 24/7.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's just like, it gives you that, that ability to take that spotlight and put it more on them. More so because I'm able to feel a little bit like my old self as well as who I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my experience as well with when my kids were young. So I was mostly home with them and doing the nights and the weekends and stuff. So taking this away from parenting and just from the perspective of like knowing that it's important to fill your cup, and that is something that I have noticed that many pet professionals are really terrible at. Prioritizing that ability to go, this helps me. This makes me feel better. This makes me feel more myself. This helps me have new ideas, more energy, whatever. What is something outside of dog training and outside of parenting that just fills your cup?
Nature.
Nature.
Yeah, nature. Just like getting out into the mountains, being near water. Water really grounds me. We are fortunate enough that we can spend quite a bit of time out in the mountains, not too far from here. And it is like when I get to go and be in the mountains away from the city, away from the hustle and bustle, that really fills my cup, as well. So even if it's just going for a walk in somewhere that doesn't feel city, if that makes sense. Like we have a big park not too far, called Nose Hill. So if I can get out to Nose Hill and go for a walk where I can't see any of the city, that's what I find grounds me the most, is just being able to be in the quiet of, well, nature's not quiet, but it's quiet from away from the city, if that makes sense.
So if I could give you a magic wand and you could grant one wish to pet professionals, some gift that you would give all of us, what would it be?
To remember that even though the work is hard and it's emotional and it can be draining in itself, to remember that you're making a difference, even when things are hard or you have challenging people or cases or anything like that. To remember that each individual pet professional has their own unique skills and beauty within them. So my biggest wish for anyone working in this industry is to remember that beauty and the reason why you got into this industry. Because most people that I know anyways that get into this industry, it is to help specifically dogs. But we can't help dogs without the people. And to just remember remember that passion when things get hard or busy or that burnout starts to happen.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook under @Positive Families with the PAW, Positive Families. You can follow me on either of those. They can find me on my website at positivefamilies.com. And I'm always happy to connect with other pet professionals.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, Elysia. It's been so fun.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home. I invite you to come learn more at colleenpilar.com, where you can be steady, be strong, and belong.